Good morning, students. The topic which we are going to do today is John Brown, a poem by Bob Dylan. Before we start with the poem, let me give you a brief introduction of the poem. Let me tell you what actually is the poem all about. The poem is an anti-war poem which Dylan wrote in 1962. This poem was written by Dylan in 1962, and it tells the story of a young man, a young soldier, who proudly goes to the battlefield to fight for his country. He's very excited about the war. He's very happy that he's going to fight this war. And his mother is also very proud of her son. Right? She's also very happy that now my son will go fight the battle and return with many medals and honors. So she is very excited, and she goes from one neighbor's house to another, telling them about her son, that now my son is a soldier. He has gone to fight a battle. See, in olden days, going to fight a war, that was something which was considered as being brave, right? As being courageous. It was a thing of great pride for the family and for the soldier also, that he is going to fight for his country. So what happens next? He goes to fight the war. He's very excited. The mother is also very happy that now now her son will come back with medals. And then what happens? After a few months, the mother receives a letter that her son is a letter in which it was written that she should go to the station to receive her son. The mother goes to the station, tries to find her son there, but she's not able to see him. When the passengers, they leave the station, when they leave the platform, then she's finally able to see her son sitting on a wheelchair. She's not even able to recognize her son. Why? Her face was disfigured and all shot up, and he was transformed into a crippled man. So the mother wants to know how this transformation happened. How was he crippled? She wants to know the reason. What happened in the battlefield? So John Brown tells him that he realized when he was in the battlefield, then he realized that he was just a puppet in the play. Means he was just a fodder cannon for these great political parties, who are the ones responsible for any type of war. So the song ends when this young man, he drops his medals into his mother's hand. So this is the summary of the poem. I think all of you must have understood the theme of the poem by now. It's the fatality of war, how fatal war can be. So this is an anti-war poem. It talks about the futility of war, how useless wars are, and what are the effects of war, right, on the common people, on the soldiers who go and fight, who go and risk their lives while fighting for their country, and while fighting just to satisfy the selfish needs of few people who are in authority. So let's start with the poem. This poem is a ballad. It's written like a ballad. So this tells a story. It's a song which tells a story. John Brown went off to war to fight on a foreign shore. His mama sure was proud of him. He stood straight and tall in his uniform, and all his mama's face broke out, and mama's face broke out all in a grin. So the language is very easy. I hope you must have understood. John Brown went off to war to fight. So John Brown went out to fight a war, and to a foreign shore means to a foreign country. So the war was being fought in a foreign country, and he went to fight that war. And his mother was very proud of him, because going for war was something to be proud of in those days. He stood straight and tall, so he looked really good. He looked really handsome in his uniform, and all his mama. And when his mother saw him in his uniform, she couldn't help smiling. Grin means there was a wide smile on her face when she saw her son dressed up, all dressed up to go to the battlefield to fight the war. It shows that she was very proud of her son, and she admired her son. Oh, son, you look so fine. I'm glad you are a son of mine. So, mother said that you look so wonderful, you look so handsome in this uniform, and I am very happy to have you as my son. Right? I'm really very glad that you are my son. You make me proud to know you hold a gun. So, this holding of a gun, being a soldier, is something to be very proud of. And I feel very proud that my son is a soldier and my son is holding a gun in his hand. Why? Because wars in those days were a matter of pride and glory. They were associated with pride and glory. Holding a gun for a soldier was something to be proud of. Do what the captain says. Lots of medals you will get, and we'll put them on the wall when you come. So the mother instructs him that you should always obey your seniors, your captains, never disobey them. And what will happen as a result of it, that you will get many medals, and when you come back home, then we will just hang those on the wall, right? So then we'll show off your medals and all the awards which you will get by hanging them on the wall. As that old train pulled out means left the station with the passengers. So as that old train pulled out, John's ma began to shout. So what happened? As the train pulled out, as the train left the station, she came to she came to the station to see of her son. And as the train started moving from the station, John's ma began to shout. So the mother of John Brown, she started shouting, telling everyone in the neighborhood, that's my son that's about to go. He's a soldier now, you know. So she was very proud of her son, and she wanted to tell everyone in the neighborhood. She wanted all her neighbors to know that her son is a soldier. I told you, being a soldier was considered as something to be very proud of. So she wanted to brag in front of her neighbors that her son is a soldier, and her son is going to fight a war for his country. That's my son that's about to go. So she started shouting at the station that, you see, this is my son, and he's going to fight a battle. He's a soldier now. She made well sure her neighbors understood. So she made it sure that all her neighbors were aware of the fact that her son was a soldier now. She got a letter once in a while, and her face broke into a smile. And what happened when her son left? Then she received letters. He used to write letters from the place where he was fighting. She got a letter once in a while. So once in a while, she used to get letters from her son, and her face broke into a smile. And whenever she got a letter of her son, she used to smile. She became very happy on receiving a letter of her son, as she showed them to the people from next door. And she bragged about her son with his uniform and gun. So what did she do? She used to just take that letter and show it to all her neighbors, right? And she went on bragging, boasting, praising her son, who was in uniform and gun, who was making her feel so proud. Why? Just because he was a soldier. And these things you call the good old-fashioned war. And so the poet in this line, in the last line, in these things you call a good old-fashioned war. The poet is actually mocking the idea of the good old-fashioned war. And this is what we call good old-fashioned war, which is actually not good at all. Right? So he mocks the idea of good old-fashioned war. Oh, good old-fashioned war. So again, there is a repetition. Repetition. Why? Because he wants to stress on this point that the war which was considered as being good, old-fashioned, was actually not good. Is it clear? Okay. So, oh, good old-fashioned war. So again, the poet has mocked the idea of war, right? That romanticization of war. War is glamorized too much. The glamorization and the romanticization of war has been mocked by the poet. Then the letters ceased to come. For a long time, they did not come. They ceased to come for about 10 months or more. Then a letter finally came saying, "Go down and meet the train. Your sons are coming home from the war." So then the mother didn't receive any letter from her son. 10 months passed. She didn't receive a single letter from her son. Then finally one day she received a letter, and what was written in that letter? That go down, go to the station and meet your son. Your son is returning home from war, from the battlefield. He's coming home. So you better go to the station, go to the train and meet your son. She smiled and went right down. And went right down means she smiled and just straight away. At once she went to the station. She looked everywhere around, but she could not see her soldier son inside. So she looked here and there, trying to figure out where her son was. She tried her level best to find her son, but she could not see her soldier son anywhere. Right? Soldier son was not in her sight. But as all the people passed, she saw her son at last. When she did, she could hardly believe her eyes. So what happened? Finally, when all the people they passed, when the platform was clear, right? When there was no crowd on the platform, then she was finally able to see her son. And then whatever she saw, she could hardly believe her eyes. Means she was shocked. She was shocked when she saw her son. Why? Because her son was badly wounded in war. So she was shocked to see the condition of her son. Oh, his face was all shot up and his hands were all blown off. So this was the condition of her son. His face was all shot up means his face was wounded and destroyed, completely destroyed, and his hands were all blown off. And he wore a metal brace. Metal brace means a metal belt around his waist. He whispered kind of slow in a voice she did not know, while she couldn't even recognize his face. So this was the condition of her son. The son who looked so handsome when he was about to go to fight a war is now transformed into a crippled man. In these lines, the poet has given a description. He tells about the fatal consequences of war, how terrible war actually is, while she couldn't even recognize her face. It means that the son who was so handsome has now been knocked down, is a knocked down victim of war now. Right? All these things happened to him because of war. He was a normal, handsome young man, and now he can't even stand up. He needs a metal brace to support his waist. His hand is all blown up, gone, and his face is all shot up. The mother of John Brown couldn't recognize him. She didn't recognize his voice because the face was all distorted and disfigured. So obviously he was not able to speak properly. So his sound, the mother couldn't recognize. She couldn't recognize his face, and she couldn't even recognize his voice. Oh Lord, not even recognize his face. So his condition was so pathetic that she couldn't even recognize his face. So the poet wants to tell in these lines that war changes us. War brings about tremendous transformation in a person. Right? Not only physical, war brings about a lot of mental changes, psychological changes in the person. The people who go to fight war in the battlefield. Oh, tell me, my darling son, pray tell me what they done. How is it you come to be this way? So now the mother wants to know the reason for his terrible condition. What was it that changed him so much? He wants to know what actually happened in the battlefield. How is it that you come to be this way? How is it that you have changed so much, that you have been crippled? He tried his best to talk, but his mouth could hardly move. So he tried his level best to talk. He made a lot of effort to speak, but he could hardly move his mouth. Right? So literally, now there are two meanings of this line, that he could hardly move his mouth. See, literal meaning is that his physical condition did not allow him to speak, because the face was all disfigured and distorted and wounded because of so many injuries on his face. He was not able to speak properly. And metaphorically, he was under the state of mental shock, which didn't allow him to speak. His mental condition was also not such that he can see. When you are narrating something, you have to go back to that time, and that time was very terrible, very horrific for John Brown, right? To think about all the things which actually happened in the battlefield. So his metaphorically, his mental condition, he was in a state of mental shock and disturbed so much that he couldn't speak. And the mother had to turn her face away. And the mother had to turn her face away means his face was so disheartening. His condition was so disheartening that the mother couldn't look at her own son. Right? She couldn't bear the looking at her son in such a disheartening condition. Don't you remember, Ma, when I went off to war, you thought it was the best thing I could do. I was on the battlefield, you were home acting proud. You wasn't there standing in my shoes. So now these are the sarcastical questions which are asked by John Brown. He tells his mother that, Mother, do you remember the time when I was leaving the house to go for war? At that time, you were so happy. You were so proud of me that now my son is going to fight a war, that now my son is a soldier, right? You went from one neighbor to another bragging about me. You thought, why? Because you believed. You were under the notion that war is the best thing. The best thing which a person can do, which a son can do, is go and fight for his country. So this was your opinion. I was on the battlefield, you were acting home. So you were at home. You were not in my shoes. You were simply sitting at home and very nicely acting proud that now your son has become a soldier and he is going to fight a war. Because you, being at home, are completely unaware of the things which actually happen in the battlefield. You don't even have the slightest idea of how it feels to be in the battlefield, how it feels to risk your life, how it feels to kill another man, or how it feels to get killed. So this is what he is pointing out to his mother, that, Mother, you are completely unaware of the reality of war, as you have never faced war. You have never been to the battlefield. So it's very easy for you to be at home and think war to be something very glorious, to be something very to be something about which we should be very proud of. So you were doing that. You were bragging about me. You were telling people, you were telling the neighbors and everyone you met that your son is a soldier. Why? Because you were not actually facing the harsh realities of war. So you were not able to empathize with me. You were not able to understand what I was going through. Oh, and I thought when I was there, God, what am I doing here? I'm trying to kill somebody or die trying. But the thing that scared me most was when my enemy came close and I saw that his face just looked just like mine. So in these lines, he realized, oh, I thought. So he said that I was also very excited when I was going for the war, for going to fight a war, when I was going to the battlefield, when I was preparing to fight that war. I was also very excited. I was also very happy. But when I landed myself, the battlefield, when this uh, war thing actually started happening, when I was actually a part of it in the battlefield, then I started wondering, what am I doing here? What am I here for? I don't have any kind of personal enmity with any of the person standing here. What am I doing here? Why? See, killing someone because that someone is your enemy. That is okay, that is possible. But I don't even know the person whom I want to kill. This is something very strange. I don't know the name. I don't recognize the person. I'm just standing here and killing people. I'm trying to kill somebody or die trying. So then John Brown, that was the moment of realization. He realized that what is he doing here? What is he actually doing here? He's trying to kill somebody who is completely unknown to him, who is not even acquainted to him, or in an effort to kill somebody, he will die. So, but the thing that scared me the most was that when my enemy came close. So, when this enemy came close, John Brown realized that he was also as much a human as John Brown was. His face, he also had those same two eyes, one nose, one mouth, and he also appeared to be a human like himself. And his enemy was also not aware of this person whom he wanted to kill. So all the strangers, what happens in the battlefield? All the strangers, they try to kill other human beings. And why? Just to satisfy the greed of some people who are in authority, right? Who are powerful. So he realized at that moment, John Brown realized that he was just a puppet and he was just a cannon fodder in the hands of warmongering leaders, warmongering administration, the people who actually control these battles and wars. And why do they do that? Just to satisfy their own greed, just to satisfy their own selfish needs. And I saw that his face just looked just like mine. So this has a metaphorical difference, right? Relevance. He was no different than him, and both were made to fight. His condition, the condition of John Brown's enemy was also very similar to John Brown's condition. Why? Because he was also a victim of war, and John Brown was also a victim of the same war, right? We were made to fight for a cause. They were made to fight for a cause. But in reality, they were fighting. They were actually the victims of war. They were just there to be killed or to die trying to kill. Oh Lord, just like mine. So he realized this face looked just like mine has a metaphorical reference also, that his situation and my situation were the same. We both were the victims. And I couldn't help but think, through the thunder rolling sting, that I was just a puppet in a play, and through the roar and smoke, this string is finally broke, and a cannon blew my eyes away. And I couldn't help but think, through the thunder rolling and sting. So he says that I couldn't help. He was just standing there, wondering what he's doing. So all these thoughts were coming into his head, right? He was thinking that why am I here? Through the thunder rolling and sting. So everywhere there was distraction. Thunder rolling means there were sounds of gunshot. Because he was standing in the battlefield, so there he could hear the sounds of gunshot, right? And stink. Stink means the smell of the dead bodies which are burning, right? The people who were dead, the soldiers who were lying there dead, and their bodies half burned, crippled, broken, limbs broken. So in pathetic condition, there were bodies of the soldiers and they were stinking. That I was just a puppet in the play. So the poet has actually given the horrible description of the battlefield. How does the battlefield actually look like? So this in these lines, the poet has actually described the reality of war. So talks about realism. And if war is so terrible, then it definitely cannot be something to be very proud of. If anything which is forcing you to kill a fellow human, that is cannot be something to be proud of. So that I was just a puppet in the play. So he realized that he was just a puppet, that soldiers are manipulated and controlled and played upon by warmongers. So he finally realized this fact. He understood this reality of war. And through the roar and smoke, this string finally came. And when he was standing in the battlefield, thinking about all these things, all these thoughts were coming into his head. Right? All around there was chaos. There was the terrible sounds were there. The smell was terrible of the half burned dead bodies. And then what happened at that moment? The string broke and a cannonball blew my eyes away. So cannonball means a heavy ball shot from a cannon, right? So it came and blew his eyes away. So this was the description of what happened to John Brown, right? Because his mother wanted to know how did he transform so much, right? How did he change so much, right? What actually happened to him? As he turned away to walk, his ma was still in shock. So after narrating the entire thing, he just turned away to walk. His mother was still. So his mother couldn't believe his eyes. His mother was still in a state of shock. What did she expect? Right? There is an irony. You remember in the beginning of the poem, the mother was very excited that the son would fetch medals. Right? When he will return from the war, he will bring medals along with him. And then she will be very happy. She will brag about and show those medals to everyone. And she will hang those medals on the wall. Fetching those medals will make her very happy. The irony of the situation is that when the son brings those medals, the medals actually don't make her happy. He turned away to walk. His ma was still in shock. She was still in mentally and emotionally disturbed state. She was still not able to come to terms with reality at seeing the metal brace that held his hand. So she was just looking at her son with the metal brace that supported him. It was only because of that metal brace that he was able to stand up. She must have thought how her son looked when she saw him for the last time, when he was going to the battlefield, at seeing the metal brace that held him. But as he turned to go, he called his mother. But when he turned to go, he called his mother, come near him, and he dropped his medals down into her. And so, what did he do? Because the mother wanted those medals. When he was leaving the house, the mother said that please obey the captains and fetch medals. If you will obey your seniors, if you will obey your officers, what will you get in return? You will get a lot of medals. So please obey the instructions of the captains. And now he got those medals. But the medals which would have made the mother very happy failed to do so. Why? Because to get those medals, her son was crippled. Her son was in such a pathetic condition. So he dropped his medals down into her hand. So this is the irony. So he dropped his medals down into her hand. The meaning is that this also is an ironical line. The meaning is by the dropping of the medals in the mother's hand, it means that he is disgusted, right? The dropping of the medal indicates the disgust which he has, right? The disgust, how disgusting. He finally realized that how disgusting thing war is. He's disgusted with the whole idea of war. So by parting from his medals, he makes a strong anti-war statement. He wants to give this message that these medals, they are nothing, right? So war anyhow is a bad thing. It doesn't matter even if you get those medals. The medals which they so much wanted in the beginning, he detaches himself from those medals. just to show, just to give the message that war is something which is bad. So by giving those medals to his mothers, he makes a very strong anti-war statement. He wants to convey the message that war is destructive, war is terrible, war is a horrifying thing, and there is nothing to take pride in war. Killing other human beings for no reason is nothing to be proud of. Killing other human beings just to satisfy the desires of few people who are in authority, who are the warmongers, is not something to be proud of. So I hope you understood the poem, and with this we end today's class. Thank you. Thank you.